having a wabbit on.
Are you going to straighten out the fact that you called the rabbit by the wrong name?
Yeah, not Peter Rabbit. And I apologize to Peter Cottontail.
He was off. Peter was sensitive about it, wasn't he?
I didn't realize rabbits could be so sensitive, and bless Steve Sain's heart, he says he's now known as Steve Insane for putting up with all that. Golly, thank you. Did you see his ride? Hey, did you see his ride out there at Porch?
No.
Oh, you talking about cool? This man invented cool.
Oh, no, I need to get out there and ride in his Porsche.
There you go.
Yeah.
How you doing today?
Doing fine. How about you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Doing well now that we're not interviewing a rabbit.
The costume's back there. I can put it on.
Steve was out here a few weeks ago, and Steve and I have talked a lot off the air, and I enjoy talking with you, number one. But
Thanks.
Steve has Parkinson. Steve also has a symposium coming up next month, April the 5th, right here at Russell Medical at the professional building, which is right to the left of the hospital. And you say you got a lot of folks coming already.
The maximum capacity of the room is 70, and last weekend we reached 70.
Wow, congratulations.
That's because of you. That's because of you.
Congratulations.
We can debate that because I think there's a need for more education in Alex City on Parkinson's.
I think it's prima facie evidence there's a need if you can max out the room.
Yeah, we're showing a waiting list on the air right now. And if you're listening on Kalijah Country right now, tell me if I'm doing the wrong thing, but send it to Brooklyn White.
Yes.
Okay, Brooklyn at 205-706-7320. And we're going to leave that up so you can make sure you can get. And I want to thank you for saying, hey, let's leave this up, because this is where I don't do a good job. We get to talk about something and we don't show anything else again. So we're going to leave this up while we let Mr. Sain talk about it, because this is something that's dear to your heart. What kind of questions are you finding out since you started this?
Questions.
Symposium is coming up next month.
Yes.
You mean questions from those who are going to attend?
Yeah. So you don't have to have Parkinson to be at this, right?
Not at all, but it really is for the patients,
Yeah.
number one, and their caregivers would be number two, and then any other professionals that interact with people that have Parkinson's would be the third group that we want to have to attend. And looking, I've seen the printout of the registration. Looking at that, we hit the bullseye because most of the registrants have Parkinson's.
Okay.
Oh, that's great.
And the second biggest group are those that are caregivers for them, which is who we want to address too. And then any others that like home care people or physical therapists or so people who deal with people with Parkinson's need to understand. I have a fitness trainer, and he does exercises that are tailored for me for Parkinson's.
What can you? I'm sorry, Terry.
Steve, are you hoping that you can parlay this initial symposium into maybe a monthly group, a support group maybe, or a educational group that meets monthly or quarterly?
Terry, you hit the nail on the head. We really have two missions. One is just to educate, because as we said just a few minutes ago, I think there's a void in Alex City. We have one neurologist that's part-time in Alex City. We don't have a full-time neurologist here at all, and then that neurologist is not a motion specialist. So that's really the type of neurologist that we need. So we really don't have a medical infrastructure here to support the population that has Parkinson's. So there's a void. So the first thing, the symposium is to educate. The second thing is to see if there's enough interest to start a support group here in Alex City. There's one in Sylacauga, there's one in Auburn, Opelika, and by the way, those two groups will be here at our symposium. But we really want to see if there's enough interest. Over 70% of the respondents to the registration so far indicated they were interested in a support group in Alex City.
Well, you say the ones from Sylacauga and Auburn, Opelika area, they're going to bring a lot of answers already to help you.
Yeah,
with
they'll bring the best practice.
Yeah, exactly
together.
right.
I think it's a great idea, and I commend you for having the vision to put it together.
It was obvious for me the value in the support group when I would go to the Sylacauga group, and I think I mentioned this the last time I was on the show. When we took a break, one of the older gentlemen came to me that had like 20 or 30 years experience with the disease and put his arm around me and said, "Son, whatever your neurologist told you was fine and dandy, but your neurologist doesn't have Parkinson's. We have Parkinson's, and we're going to teach you how to live with it." And they
what
have.
a strong statement.
So there was your doctor right there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So, and that's the biggest value of the support group. Some people that have never been to one of those meetings think maybe it's a pity party or something like that. It is not that at all. In fact, if anything, we make fun of ourselves instead of feel sorry for ourselves. The real value is comparing notes and sharing experiences. Like one of the things we didn't talk about last time is medications.
Yeah.
There's just a variety of medications. Some works for some people, some doesn't work for others. And so you compare notes on what works for you, what are you taking, and how much, and why, and so forth, and you learn from each other that way, and it's free.
You know, I think you and I have talked about those medicines, and I talk about we've talked about the exercises you can do. You can talk about the things that you can do to help you with Parkinson, because you're not going to get over it, right?
Unfortunately, there is no cure at this point. There's no cause identified. There's suspicions, but there is no true cause, and there is no true cure. All the treatment is to treat the symptoms.
When you say it's a superstition, what are some of the things that they say may cause it? This is not positive.
Pesticides, exposure to certain pesticides,
Really?
and there's things like that. But I see that so much with other things
Yeah.
that I kind of just write it off.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
And some of it has been proven to be inherited.
Okay.
But that's very little also.
Is anybody in your family that had it?
None.
Really? So that rules.
It wasn't my case.
You know, sometimes we can, doctors, scientists, all you real smart guys can try to put something together, and it's always in the hands of the man upstairs. It was just your time. Is it fair? No, but it's life.
It's life.
I mean, you know.
That's right. In fact, we'll have our keynote speaker will be addressing that very thing. I think he calls his presentation something about dealing with life's occasions. And it's not necessarily fair, but okay, it's not what happens to you that's important. It's how you respond to what happens to you. And he's all about that. I've heard bits and pieces of videotape of his presentation. I can't wait to hear the whole thing. He's really, really good. He has Parkinson's.
What impresses you the most about him? It's his honesty?
It's his drive.
Okay.
And he has elected to have what's called deep brain stimulation surgery, I think a couple of weeks after our symposium. And I'm eager to talk to him about that because that's a surgery that scares me, because you put electrodes down in your brain and you kind of hook them up to a device that is like a control device in your shoulder, and you're awake during the procedure.
Feel it?
I don't think so, because I think at a certain point in your brain, the brain tissue does not have nerve endings.
Wow.
So you don't even need anesthesia. But just the thought of having people sticking wires down in your brain while you're awake, and the reason you're awake is they need to get feedback as to are they in the right place and is it having an effect and so forth. I understand that, but it's still scary.
They'd have a hard time running them wires in my brain. They'd have to keep on running them, keep on running. Say, this guy ain't got no brains. We'll be right back. Boy, what a Friday. And, man, God, believe it or not, we're about to wrap this dead blame thing up. But not before we go back and talk to my old buddy, Steve Sain. I just changed his mind right here. But thank you so much for doing this. This symposium is already filled up, but there's a waiting list. So you can contact Brooklyn White. You see the number on the screen. If you're listening again, 205-706-7320. Ryan Fuller.
Thanks for the...
And Steve, thank y'all for putting this together so we could put this right here. I think we're learning something. I'm learning something. And Ryan, I ain't have to... He knows it. So, buddy, thank you so much for helping us out on this. But this is already filled up, but this waiting list is right there for you.
Yes, Brooklyn's trying to get those people who, on the original list, that may have changed their mind and they'd have to go out of town and leave that seat vacant. So she's trying to get the people on the waiting list actively in to fill those seats that would be vacant.
It's a free event too.
Free.
Free. And do I remember food being served?
Wharf.
And you get a free autographed book, if I remember correctly.
The keynote speaker is an author, and he's going to have a book signing and give his books free. So
Greg Richer?
Greg Richer.
Okay, Rick Richer. Keynote speaker and author of this book. So he knows it, you know it, and people who have it know it. So
Yeah.
would there be a question and answer? Is that what this is really all about?
Yes, we have an agenda that allows for time for each speaker, and we've got 5 or 6.
Oh,
And we're
okay.
trying to make them 30-minute presentations and make them go quick because we realize 10 to 2 is the overall time. That's a long time for someone to sit in one place, especially if you have something like Parkinson's that makes you antsy to move. So we want to do that, but we're going to provide Q&A on all subjects at the end.
Do you talk about getting antsy? Do you do better getting up and getting around, getting out, getting exercising, or getting exercises? Does that help you?
Yes. But there are those that it makes it difficult.
To get around, to maybe pull a leg, to
Stiffness is one of the normal side effects or normal symptoms, and stiffness just makes walking hard.
yeah, in your legs, in your back, in your arms, and just stiffness in your entire body.
Sure, anything.
Wow. Okay.
But different people react differently to it. It's not necessarily your entire body. It doesn't necessarily encompass difficulty in everybody's body the same way.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what I wanted you to make sure you understand. It wasn't, some people could have hip problems, they could have knee problems, ankles, shoulders, but it doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily blanket that it affects everybody the same way. And I think that's what's so important about the symposium and helping caregivers understand what's going on.
Sure.
And I loved your statement a while ago. My doctor may be great, but he doesn't have this.
Right.
So, I mean, all the doctor can do is the same thing Kenny and I can do, is read the book.
And
You guys live the book.
The disease is so weird. It affects all kinds of people in all kinds of different ways. Remember, I think last time I was here, I gave you that sentence that they make us repeat at the very beginning. It's, you've seen one patient with Parkinson's, you've seen one patient with Parkinson's, because everybody's different.
Yeah.
And so the caregivers need to learn what all the symptoms are so they can recognize them.
Does exercise help you? Because I know I go to Total Fitness, and you do too. People that work with you, do they understand it a lot of times? Steve?
They do. In fact, we will have Kara Tidwell from
wow.
Total Fitness.
That's my girlfriend. Good morning, Kara. But now, one of the things that I think you're able to do, because you've done a lot of study on the disease, you're able to communicate to Kara what works and what's not working.
Yes.
And I love, and Kara is willing to adjust whatever we're doing or whatever you guys are doing to fit your needs. I mean, it's not one size fits everybody.
Sure. Some of it's eye-hand coordination, some of it's balance, some of it's this and that. It's a whole myriad of things. And everybody has their own different profile. It's hard to figure out. And most of it is not painful. Some of it is. I'm lucky I don't have any pain.
That's great.
But there are some that do. So it's hard to figure out. It was hard to diagnose, and it's hard to figure out, and then it's hard to deal with.
We talk about care at the hospital, Russell Medical, and the Total Fitness. You know, even when I sit down, what are your goals? What do you want to get out of this? Losing weight or getting bulky? What do you want? That way, when you set your goals you can get to. So I would think the same thing with a person that has Parkinson, or maybe any other thing. What are your goals?
To walk.
Yeah.
And even though you can now,
Yeah.
but just extend that, because it's a neurodegenerative disease, and it gets worse as time goes by. And the way the doctors usually put it is Parkinson's causes morbidity that leads to mortality. And it's the, I think, 14th leading disease that uses something else medically to kill people. So it's not like murder or a traffic accident, that those aren't included, but anything else is, like cancer and so forth, and it's still the 14th leading disease.
Wow. Tell me again how long you've known you had Parkinson.
About 5 years.
5 years. So have you seen it get worse?
Yes.
You have?
Well, that's something I was fixing to talk about. We do it working with Kara, and because you've done extensive research on the issue, you know, and you read your body every day, and you're able to go tell Kara, I think this is beginning to happen. Let's jump on fixing it today, as opposed to someone who is, and the symposium will help a lot of people begin to recognize other issues that we need to fix before they become a real issue.
Sure. What gets me and what perhaps motivated me to start this thing in the very beginning was I see a lot of, and I'm not being critical of neurologists, please don't take it this way, but I see so many neurologists that are generalist neurologists get a patient with Parkinson's symptoms, say, oh, well, you have Parkinson's, and there's one particular drug that everybody uses called carbidopa-levodopa. Its brand name is Sinemet. And it seems like they turn to manual page 77 and say, okay, this amount of Sinemet, and they write that prescription. Well, Sinemet can be wicked. It has certain side effects that are difficult to deal with. And there's so many other medications out there that it helps to figure out exactly which one matches your set of symptoms. And you might take some Sinemet, you might take some of this or some of that. And customize a program specifically for that patient.
Well, your symposium, the symposiums you're putting together and the support groups you're putting together will help those neurologists begin to pinpoint that focus as they move forward in their prescription writing.
I hope so, and I
it's
hope
great.
with our new advanced care facility at Russell, I hope we get a neurologist.
Oh, yeah, and they're, believe me, they're working on all those things, but every one of you will be right back. Well, we've got to wrap it up today. Just a statistic. One in every 9 minutes.
A Parkinson's diagnosis every 9 minutes. I did the math. That means 13 have been diagnosed since your show's been on the air today.
Thank you, Mr. Sain, of coming out here. We'll continue to remind you about this over the next few weeks. You have a good weekend. Stay out of trouble, okay? I mean,
Me?
yeah, both of y'all. Hey, we'll see y'all Monday.
Take care. Be safe.